Scott.
Hi, folks. My name is Scott Lee, and I'm an addict. And I am very, very pleased to be here, honored to be here. Uh, I've got a disease so powerful it kills people that don't even have it, and I need to treat it every day. And I think I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Y'all have been kind enough to just turn me loose. I'm quite sick of telling my story, but I love to talk about recovery, and that's what I'm going to do. I had the privilege of sponsoring a number of men in kind of a lot of places. And 3 or 4 times a month, I invite them into a Zoom meeting. And we do a story out of the big book or we do something out of Ask Bill Sees It. Today we did out of Ask Bill Sees It. I'm going to read you just a short portion off of page 25. And then I'm going to go back to the big book and talk about it a little bit. It says, how many of us would presume to declare, well, I'm sober and I'm happy. What more can I want or do? I'm fine the way I am. We know that the price of such self-satisfaction is inevitable backslide, punctuated at some point by a very rude awakening. We have to grow or else deteriorate. For us, the status quo can only be for today, never for tomorrow. Change we must. We cannot stand still. I had the privilege of hearing Dr. Paul. If you don't know the name, he's the fellow that wrote that thing on acceptance. And he said, it's kind of like I'm on a bicycle with no brakes. I'm on a hill. And I can either keep pedaling and go up the hill, or if I stop pedaling, I'm going to go back. But there's no way to be still. I think that's a pretty important piece. One of the young men I sponsor asked me a question some time ago. He's got like 3 years and I've got like 39. And he said, I know what you talk about when guys like me are around. What do you talk about with other guys with 20, 30, 40 years when us new guys are not around? And I said, we talk about two things. One is, how can I better carry this message to somebody else? And the other one is, how can I keep newcomer ears? I need newcomer ears badly. And I was fortunate to have them on I guess about 6 weeks ago. A young lady in my home group with just over a year said, and I've added to it, but her concept, she said, the steps disconnect me emotionally from all the mistakes in the past, mine and yours. And I add to that, step 4, the forgiveness process, disconnects me from your mistakes in the past emotionally. And step 9 disconnects me from my own mistakes in the past emotionally. Step 12 continues to reemphasize that on both of those. Powerful stuff. I need to always be able to hear them. I'm going to do it. I'm going to dig a couple of pieces out of the book just for fun. Page 14 that talk about this newcomer ears thing is what is my topic, is how do I stay green and growing? Bottom of page 14 in the text. And one of the guys I sponsor said it's in the 5th edition. And he said it's got to be, because I've read the 4th and there are things in here that were not there the last time I read it. Some of you are aware of that. And the reason that happens isn't because the text changes, because I did. When I grow, I read it with new eyes. And here's what he got. Bottom of 14. For if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice for others, he could not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. You've been hearing about promises? Here's a promise. We promise you trials and low spots. I think we make a terrible mistake not telling the newcomers about that. I don't need to tell them it's going to be okay. It ain't. Some of it's not going to be okay. But we're going to have a way for you to go through it. And not only not drink or Jones, but not drink or use. It isn't about not doing it. It's about not wanting to, is what this whole mission is about. And how do I get to that? It doesn't say through prayer and meditation. It says through work, that'd be the 12 steps, and self-sacrifice, going out of my way for others. Page 35. Our friend Jim used to own an automobile agency, and he lost it through being one of us. That's an easy way to lose something. And about 8 lines from the bottom, one, for me today, may be the most important line in this book, for me today. All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. That's what I've got to do. I've got to be in the business of enlarging my spiritual life. Prayer and meditation, yeah, but going out of my way to help others. before it gets away, page 77 in the reading on steps 8 and 9, there's something I completely misread, and it's easy to misread, I guess, because I did it. Third line, our real purpose to fit ourselves to be a maximum service to God and the people about us. So clearly, it's not my purpose to be a maximum service to God and people about me. I have no idea how to do that. I wouldn't know which way to turn out of the driveway. To fit myself to be max service, I know how to do that. I get a sponsor. I sponsor some guys. I work the steps. I take meetings into jails, prisons, treatment centers. I let people in traffic. I open and close my days with prayer and meditation. I know how to do that to fit myself. I'm told that the master craftsman reaches for the best tool laying it closest to his hand. It's not up to me to do the work. It's up to me to fit myself to be the best tool I can be and to reside as close to the master's hand as I can. And when I do that, he uses me. I don't have to worry about doing it. Page 85. It is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. If it's easy to let up, it must require effort to not let up. That's what we're talking about here. I must continue to make effort. I do not need to get to the place where I think I know it, because the knowledge is worth nothing. I tell them it's like knowing the recipe for chocolate cake. Not going to get you a cake. The knowledge is worth nothing. It is the doing. Head to patrol if we do for alcohols or cells, but we're not cured. Really have a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. So my daily reprieve, which I look up reprieve, it either means stay of execution or delay of punishment, is contingent not on my spiritual condition. I don't know what my spiritual condition is. And I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and I said, spiritual condition and spiritual growth are not things I do. They're things I receive. What I do is the daily maintenance. It's the same thing I just said. Daily prayer and meditation, reading spiritual literature, taking meetings, the stuff we do to maintenance my spiritual condition. And then I heard myself say to him, and besides that, judging my spiritual condition is way above my pay grade. Wait a minute. I don't have a pay grade because I'm not hired to work in God's service. I'm a volunteer, and volunteers don't have pay grades. That was big for me. That was really big for me. Page 275. Oops. This is in the story Keys of the Kingdom. First full paragraph. AA is not a plan for recovery. It can be finished and done with. It is a way of life. And the challenge contained in its principles is great enough to keep any human being striving for as long as he lives. We cannot outgrow this plan. There it is. I can't outgrow it. I got to be really careful when I think I have. I'm in big, big trouble. Page 8. I've been fooling with this thing for about 2 years, I think, is when I discovered that. To those who know what I talk about when I say the book is new. 2/3 of the way down the page, I was soon to be catapulted into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. Einstein said the fourth dimension was time. The dimensions are width, depth, height, and time. And the time I'm catapulted into is right here, right now, between the clouds, right here, right now. Place the addict rarely visits. I'm off in the past, reliving victories, some of which may have actually happened, or I'm off in the future trying to figure it all out. Plan A and plan B and plan C. And what if they find out this and what if the other? And I'm never between the clouds, right here, right now. So the time I'm catapulted into is this moment where the magic is. It's where you magnificent people are. It's where the God of my very limited understanding is. It's a problem with, I think, anxiety and worry and fear for me are all different levels of the same mistake. And that mistake is trading a perfectly good moment right here, right now, for a bad one sometime in the future that may not even happen. That is one terrible trade. So how do I not do that? The hardest assignment I've ever been given is one day at a time. And I first saw that, I said, yeah. Don't drink today. Don't take drugs today. It absolutely means that. It also means live only in this day. My feet are smarter than my mind. I'll tell you right now. I look at my feet right now. They're not in the past and they're not in the future. They're right here, right now. My mind could learn a lot from my feet. My feet are not trying to kill me either. My mind is, I swear it would kill me if it didn't need me for transportation. So the question is, how do I do that? And what has worked for me, I've got 3 vocabularies: speaking, praying, and thinking. I consider them separately. And I need to use the word today frequently in all 3 of those. The question isn't, what am I doing about my finances? It's the wrong question. The question is, what am I doing about my finances today? Very different question. And feel how much easier that is? What am I doing about my relationship? What do you do about it? What am I doing about my kids? No, what do you do about them today? Wow. One day at a time. I think all of the good questions contain the word today. And all the good answers contain the word today. They do for me. And when I stay right here, right now, between the clouds, right here, right now, everything's fine. I can see about 20 of you. So I'm going to ask you a question. I need you to nod your head or shake it no. Is everybody okay right this second? Nod if you're okay right this second. All right, thank you. How about now? How about now? Yeah, to get right here, right now, between the clouds. Wow, it's a place I rarely visit. So I'm continuing on page 8. I was to know, so Bill describes the 4th dimension in his own terms. I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that's incredibly more wonderful as time passes. Happiness, I get that. That's what I want for myself. Aristotle said that's what everybody wants, is to be happy. I buy that. I want that for me. Peace, yes, I want that for me also. Absolutely. I want to be calm in here and comfortable. What is usefulness doing on this list? That's for them. No, it isn't. It's for me. I cannot find a direct route into happiness and peace. There's nothing out there I could achieve, acquire, or obtain that will bring them. Happiness and peace are a side effect of having a healthy relationship with God and with you and trying to be of service. And when I try to be of service, happiness and peace just fall out of the sky on me. Page 84. The 3rd line, that feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. What in the world are uselessness and self-pity? How did they get together? Uselessness and self-pity. The answer for me is the path out of self-pity is through being useful. I was diagnosed with cancer in my throat in 20. They took my teeth, as I'm sure you've noticed. They did so much radiation in my face that it killed my jawbone. That's why they took my teeth. I got a dead jawbone. It's still here, but it is dead. And you can't have live teeth in the dead jawbone. They tell me I surrendered to the doctors. And as I went into this, I told the men I sponsor, I said, as usual, your first thought is wrong. You're thinking Scott's got this life-threatening disease. He does not need my small problems. And you're exactly wrong as usual. What I need is to get out of myself. And there's no way to me get out. But if you bring me a small problem, I can get into you. And when I get into you, it's a side effect on out of me. On 2 different occasions over the course of the chemo and radiation, which is a pretty rough thing, I got into depression twice. And the way I get into depression, by the way, is I sit alone and think about me. Have you all ever heard the Addicts theme song? I don't know if you ever have. I'm from Nashville. I'm going to sing it for you. Me, 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 me. So I sit and I think about me. Is that it, John? Did I get it? I saw you laugh. Yeah. So I sit and think about me, and I get down to this funk, and I'm borrowing all this pain from the future. And how do I get out of it? I pick up the phone and call you and say, how are you? No, really, how are you? How can I be of service? What can I do for you? And it brings me up out of that funk. Trying to be useful solves my problem. I've been reading this book. I'm almost said religiously. I've read it a lot over the last 39 years. And there are threads I can chase through. I can give you 5-page numbers that say recovery's got to be fun. I can give you 6 that say some of what I know for sure ain't so. I can give you 3 that say I create my own problems. The single thread that runs wider and deeper through this book is help others. I count over 50 before we get to the stories, places that tell me the answer to my problem is to be of service to you. It makes no sense whatsoever. It also, by the way, works every time. Page 15. This is in Bill's story. My wife and I abandoned ourselves with enthusiasm to the idea of helping other alcoholics to a solution to their problems. It was fortunate. My old business associates remained skeptical for a year and a half, during which I found little work. By the way, if you're new, do not be upset with your family if they don't get excited when you get 90 days. They have every right to be cynical, right? And don't try to sell it to them. That'll make it worse. I think the best thing you can do is say you have every right to be cynical over what's going on in the past. I'm doing good now. Time will tell. I think it's the best thing you can do. And I think the longer it takes them to buy into your recovery, probably the healthier they are. Anyway, pardon the soapbox. Continuing on 15. Listen to the power in these words. I was not too well at the time. I was plagued. What a word. When's the last time you heard the word plague used as a verb? Plagued by the 2 great killers of alcoholics and addicts. Waves of self-pity and resentment. The 2 great killers. Plagued by waves of them. They just washing over it. This sometimes nearly drove me back to drink. I soon found that when all other measures failed, work with another alcoholic would save the day. There it is again. Many times I've gone to mental hospital in despair. I looked up the word. It means without hope. You want to get to despair? You've got to go down through depression to get to despair. It lays under depression. Many times I've gone to mental hospital in despair. I'm talking to a man there. I'd be amazingly lifted up, set on my feet. The design for living, it works in rough going. Page 13, over the last few months, they've added several things to page 13. I don't know whether you keep up with the changes that they put in the book. But 2 of them that really lit me up, about 12 lines down on the right-hand side of the page, a single word, friend, capital F. It's a reference to God being a friend. I did not yet come here with the faintest notion that that was even remotely possible. And yet there it is. But at the bottom of the page, this one they just added too. My friend promised when these things were done, I would enter upon a new relationship with my Creator. Well, if you'd asked me 6 months ago, before I came to recovery, if I had a relationship with God, I would have told you no. And I would have been wrong. I did have. And see if you recognize some of these prayers. By the way, we're not going to do a show of hands. All right. God, please help me pass this test I didn't study for. Please don't let those flashing red and blue lights be for me. It's another very popular pre-recovery prayer. I'm going to do this one from the masculine. God, please don't let her be pregnant. I'm told that can be prayed in the first person singular. I've never done that, but I know it can be. And the big one, of course, for a guy like me, is I've been in active alcoholism since I was 18. I normally did this when I was kneeling on the prayer rug. For those of you who don't recognize the term, that's that little half moon of carpet they put around the commode for you to kneel on. I've always thought of it as the prayer rug. And I'm in there, and I'm at the point in the proceedings where there's nothing coming out but noise and occasional tears. Some of you may recall that. And I would pray the pre-AA prayer. See if you recognize the prayer. God, get me out of this, and I'll never do it again. Which is alcoholic for men, as you probably know. So I have to look at the fact I did have a relationship with God before I came here. I just didn't know it. I had the privilege of driving a 4-engine jet for the Air Force for a number of years. Actually, I'm going to show a picture of it. I don't get to do this. And we left Christchurch, New Zealand, and went to American Samoa and took on fuel. And we left Samoa for Honolulu. And I was driving one of these. I had a slight touch of the hangover. And It's an 8-hour flight plan. There's nothing in between but water. There's nowhere to land. Halfway across, we get into the new fuel. It was contaminated. It had water in it. At our altitude, the temperature is minus 50, and they don't call it water. Strangely enough, they call it ice. And water's not a problem for a jet engine. There are jet engines they actually inject water into on takeoff roll for additional thrust. The water isn't the problem. The problem is the ice is clogging the fuel lines. And giant jet engines do not respond real well to fuel starvation. So we come down into warmer air, and I can run the engines down here, but I can't make Honolulu at this altitude. It's already closer to go on than it is to go back. You may not know, but if you get in trouble in a jet and fuel, you add power and climb. You'll get that climb fuel back because of running at a higher altitude. Your engines are much more efficient. So we go back up. We can't stay. The worst thing you can do for gas mileage on an airplane is this, and that's what we're doing. Because the numbers say we're going to put a 300,000-pound jet airplane in the Pacific Ocean about 150 miles an hour today, and we're all going to die. My guess would be a solid half the people I'm looking at have had the experience of thinking we're going to die in the next moment or two. We've laid down bikes and wrecked cars and trucks and looked down gun barrels and drug deals gone bad, faced jealous spouses. Oh, yeah. A lot of us have had the experience thinking we're going to die in the next moment or two. Let me tell you something. 4 hours, long time, think you're going to die today. And I promised to God I didn't really believe in. If he would get me out of this one, I would quit smoking. I would quit drinking. I would quit visiting ladies I was not married to. I'm going back to church, the early service. I might even build some churches. Believe me, you don't leave anything in the bag on this one. 10 fuel tanks, all said zero, and the 10 engines are still turning. And what I decided to do was shoot what we call a forced landing at Hickam. If I could make high station for a forced landing, I could at least crash on dry land so our bodies could be sent home for burial. That's a conversation in that cockpit. Turned final at Hickam at 9,000 feet. If they'd all quit then, I'd have made dry land. It wouldn't have been pretty, but I'd have made it. Landed on the end of that runway and taxied in and shut them down. And they dipped our fuel tanks like you dip your crankcase, see how much oil you got? We did not have sufficient fuel left on that airplane to start 4 engines to taxi from my living room to the street. We didn't have that much left. And I didn't even check into the hotel. I went straight to the bar. Put my bags down either side of the bar. Still said, Mai Tai, the tall one, pack of Marlboros. Right? Tell me you don't understand that. I know you do. And this is what I see in the eyes you've given me. In those days when I prayed, I was trying to make him my God. What I've been taught here is how to make me his man. You see, I had it backwards. As a friend of mine says, I always wanted to serve God, but I wanted to serve in an advisory capacity. Big fella, take a knee. Have some instructions for you. And it didn't work. And this one does. Anyway, I want to tell another story. Those who are close to me have probably heard this too many times already, but some time back I was sitting beside a stream and I did not have a light spinning rod in my hand, and that's most unusual. And I was looking across the stream, and on the other side there was a thundercloud, and I'm looking at that thundercloud. It occurred to me, every drop of rain in that thundercloud's following God's will perfectly. I know they are. Every one of them. So's that tree across the stream, and so's the bird in the tree, and so those little fish in the stream. Why can't I? And then it was inside, but it was like that. There was so much energy in that question, so much negative energy. Why can't I? And I got an answer for me. It may not be for you. I got my answer. And the answer is I am. And it really surprised me. That's my answer. This is what it's based on. I'm convinced to the depths of my soul that it's not my job to be perfect. If you think it's your job to be perfect, I wish you a lot of luck. You're going to need it. But if it's not my job to be perfect, what's my job? My job's to make mistakes. They sent the right guy. Oh, boy. And I've been told all my life we learn from our mistakes. Really? Well, if that's true, I'm not looking at anybody that's been arrested more than once. Uh-huh. Sure you are. Right. So, what do we learn from? Guys like me. Guys like me learn from living with the results of our mistakes. I'm like the poodle that peed on the rug. What did he learn? Nothing. When did he start learning? When you rubbed his nose in it. Me and the poodle, we have that in common. So here's the learning. Here's a definition. A mistake. It's an invitation to a lesson. The evidence is if I'd already learned the lesson, I would not have made the mistake. It's just an invitation to a lesson. And what I'm about to say is either true or false. There's no gray. I don't have the power to make a mistake so ugly that this loving, laughing God can't turn it into something magnificent. I didn't say fix. And if you don't think that's true, I hope you get a bigger God, because mine's bigger than any kind of mistake I can make, period. He takes the very worst things I've ever done and frequently uses them as tools to help other people. That is a powerful God doing wonderful things with the worst mistakes I have ever made. So here's the learning process as I understand it today, based on all of that. 1, make a mistake. 2, be notified I made the mistake. I don't always know. 3, own the mistake. Yeah, that was me. I did it. And if they only know 80%, I have to tell them the other 20. If I don't, when they find the other 20, we're going through this again. And besides that, I need to own it. All right. So 3, own the mistake. 4, consult a spiritual advisor about how to. 5, make the amend. Usually, not always, usually there's an amend that accompanies the mistake. 6, embrace the lesson. The lesson does not come in the making of the mistake. It comes in the making of the amend. If you hold that thought that I learned from living with the results of my mistakes, hold that thought, read the 12 steps. Half of them are about me embracing the results of my mistakes. 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11 are all about me embracing the results of my mistakes. It's where I learn. So 6 is to learn the lesson. 7, share the lesson. That's what really sets it. 8, when I share the lesson, I have to tell you I made a mistake. If I just share the lesson, I'm preaching and nobody wants to hear it. When I stand as a sinner beside a sinner, he can hear me. 9, make the next mistake. we got a term I love. The term is progress. I'm going to give you my definition. Progress is making the same old mistake a little less often, or making a new and finer quality of mistake. Anything beyond that's perfection. It's not my assignment. Let me tell you what a phenomenal freedom that has brought me, but it's only half. I have my own permission to make mistakes. I expect me to make mistakes because I know what I'll do with them. You just heard it. Dr. Paul said that before he came to recovery, when he made a mistake, he hid it. He lied about it. He laid it up on somebody else. When he did something good, he told everybody. When he got to recovery, it's the exact opposite. When I screw up, I have to tell everybody. When I do something good, I have to hide it. So anonymity is doing something good for somebody else and not getting caught. So half of the freedom is I have my own permission to make mistakes. The other half is you have my permission to make mistakes. Because if I'm going to get upset about your behavior, I'm a prisoner of your behavior. And I was a prisoner of alcohol and drugs for a very, very long time, and I do not want to be a prisoner anymore. So you have my permission to make mistakes. Let me define you. That's 2 former wives. Those of you who got your driver's licenses out of Cheerios boxes. Some people in Washington, D.C., I think have got their heads up and locked. Some people that start wars. Some newcomers that want to take over the meeting. If I get upset about what somebody else is doing, I'm a prisoner of their behavior. So if I got a rope on you, holding you in line, if you jump out, you pull me with you. It's when I release my grip on that. And you have, so the freedom is I have my own permission to make mistakes. The other half is you have my permission to make mistakes. The way I get that was based on a reality that hit me about 9 years ago. I realized one morning I found the source of all anger. I'd say where it all comes from. For me, may not be for you. All my anger comes from being sure I'm right. I've never been angry when I'm also absolutely certain I was right. And being right comes from having passed judgment. I have to judge to be right to be angry. So if I don't judge, I don't get right. If I don't get right, I don't get angry. And I realized that in meditation one time, I think about 9 years ago. And I added to my morning. So judgment is the grandmother of anger. If I don't judge, I never get to anger. And I added to my morning prayer. It was there this morning. It's about the number 5 item on my morning prayer list. Bless me, please. I don't judge any situations. And I don't judge any people as good or bad. That I see them as you see them and love them as you love them, especially the ones that seem to me to be unlovable. It's changed my life. I had an experience some years ago. One of the fellows I sponsored called me, rah, 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 this guy I was sponsoring. Or no, this guy in my home group. And I heard myself say, isn't part of our assignment to learn to love the unlovable? And he and I both said, wow. Because see, I didn't know that. I'm going to ask for a show of hands. I can see about 20 of you. Who's had the experience of the moment before somebody asks you a question, you did not know the answer. And you open your mouth and a piece of the great golden truth, not a lie, not BS, but some of the great truth that you didn't know falls out. And 3 hours later, you can't quote it. Sometimes I can't remember what it was. Who had that? Yeah. Huge percentage. It's always over half. Yeah. Isn't that astonishing? Isn't that astonishing? I'll tell you a couple of more of those that happened to me. The first one I can recall that I was able to remember later what it was. I had maybe 3 or 4 years. And this lady after a meeting said, I'm hearing about hope and expectations. They're both about the future. What's the difference? And I heard myself say, expectations come from my head where my disease continues to reside. And they're really premeditated resentments because if I don't get them, I'm going to be angry. Hope comes from my spirit. And it's based on the fact that loving God holds my future. And she and I both said, wow, because I didn't know that. This one happened to me less than a year ago. A fellow I referred to a few minutes ago, he completed the prayers and resentment portion of the inventory. I hope you know what I'm talking about. I hope you please find out if you don't. But he could pray for everybody on this list, great stuff, and mean it. And he announced that to me. I said, wow, fantastic. We're going to move on. He said, no. He said, I'm afraid some of them might come back or I might pick up some new ones. I heard myself say, stop solving problems you don't have. Now, I think that I'll be on the wall next to Easy Does It. Quit solving problems you don't have. Wow. Chasing your tail. My goodness, goodness, goodness. Isn't that something we do the best? Chasing our tail. I think I'm going to talk a little bit about prayer and meditation. And I love that opening with 2 minutes of meditation. I think it's a wonderful thing. I set my alarms usually about 31 minutes apart. The first one, I get up, I take a quick trip to the bathroom, and I hit the start button on the coffee pot. Now it's set up. I just hit the button, and I initiate my prayer and meditation. I open my prayer by thanking God for a bunch of stuff. I don't think God needs to be thanked. I think I need to thank. It's not for me. It's not for him. It's for me. All the blocks in the channel between Scott and God are at Scott's end. His end's clear, pretty sure. My end's where the blocks are. And thanking him for some things seems to open that up. And then I invite him in to run my life. And I use a lot of words. I'd like to invite you in to run my life. I want you to be the CEO, the boss, the master, the manager. And I would like to volunteer for service, whatever you have in mind for me. Sometimes when I'm in a really, really good place spiritually and think of it, I will ask him for the hardest training I can stand so he can make the most of me that he can. And I did that for the first time when I was sober less than a year. And I've had times I wish I hadn't done that. The training had been pretty tough. But boy, I love being used. And and then I ask him to bless me that I don't judge anyone. That what you just heard about judgment. I ask him to bless me that I might be a great listener today. That I might hear not with just my ears, but with my whole being. That I might be a great giver today. Of my finances, I don't have a whole lot, but I might be a great giver of those. But I also might be a great giver of my more valuable things, my time and my attention. Bless me that I be a great giver today. Bless me if you have lessons for me today that I might learn them as quickly as I can, doing as little collateral damage as I can. Bless me, please, that I don't miss any opportunities to be of service, to spread love and joy. Empty me of self and fill me with your love. Shaken together, pressed down, heaped up, overflowing. They may gush out of me all over everybody that I meet today. And as an aside, I'm either going to serve the God of my addiction or I'm going to serve the God of love. I cannot find a third option. And serving the God of love, like serving the God of addiction, is not a part-time job. That means I have to do it all day, every day. It doesn't matter who they are. I asked him, I quit praying for guidance over 30 years ago. I haven't done it since. It occurred to me one day when I was praying for guidance that a loving God was sending his guidance every day. Plus, I was giving God his instructions. Hey, big fella, all right with the guidance already. God's hard to train. You may have noticed that. And I know some of you have tried. I know you have. I see you nod. Yeah. And I know he moves slowly, but I think it's because he's old. So don't worry about that. So I asked him that I would be open to his guidance, that I don't miss it. And then I do what I call a love meditation. I got this mental image of love coming out of heaven. Mine is a column. It's the size of the top of my head. Mine is silver. It shimmers and it throws out all these little rainbows. And it comes down out of the top, out of heaven, down through the top of my head, and my nose, my mouth, and my chest. And I send it to all the places I'm going today, one at a time. I send it to a tremendous number of people. I send it to all of you this morning before first light. And I mean that. I sent love to all of you this morning. I send it to some people I know that are having a hard time physically. I don't tell God to heal them. I don't think he needs my instruction. I'm sending love to my husband-in-law currently. Some of you are not from the South. My husband-in-law is the guy that's married to my first wife. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, I'm sending love to some people who are having a hard go physically. I send love to all the men I sponsor and many of the people they sponsor. I send it to all of my family members. I've just got a whole list of people that I send it to. I'm guessing it's around 100 individuals. And I just send them love. I just can't think of anything better I can do. And then when I get to the end of that, and I've sent love to all the places I'm going, I ask him for humility. That was hard to do initially. But I need to be trainable. I need to remember that I am not the living water. I'm the pipe. On a good day, I'm a plumbing fixture. I need to be an open pipe and not to take care. I have an alter ego I call Saint Scott of the microphone. And I don't have time to tell the whole story, but he's a very ugly guy. And it's when he knows it all that it gets real ugly. And I don't want to see him again. So I ask for humility. I also ask him to please give me so much faith that I can share with anybody that needs it today. And then I ask him, please bless me, that through the day I find the answers to these questions. Whose feet can I wash in your name? What can I give? How can I best serve you today? Help me find those answers today as they're presented. I came to believe a long time ago that guidance comes right on time. It is rarely early. Rarely early. Quit trying to fix the rest of my life. I would tell you my fear of death has been gone for quite a while. I'm 80 years old. I did not have any fear of death about this cancer. I tell you when it left, I was sober about 5 years, and I was I got this twinge in my back. I didn't know that level of pain was available to somebody who was conscious. I didn't know you could hurt like that. And while I was being driven to the hospital, it occurred to me, I'd offered God my will in my life. I never had offered him my death. So I did. I said, I'm not asking to go. If it's your will, my time, take me. My fear of death has been gone since then. And I checked about a year ago. I didn't mean to. Since the cancer, my throat's all scar tissue. I can't swallow anything thicker than applesauce. I live on chocolate and sugar and applesauce and soup. And the soup can't have anything swimming in it. And I've discovered I can eat ground beef if it's ground up really fine. I take very small bites and wash it down with a pretty good bit of liquid. So a friend of mine named Barkley and I were double dating, and we were at a Mexican restaurant. And I got a beef enchilada, ground beef, and I was doing fine. And I thought, man, I bet I can eat some cheese. Well, I lost that bet. It stuck halfway down, and it wouldn't go down. It wouldn't come back up. And it upset my friends very much. And I'll tell you what flashed through my mind. Well, I guess I'm going to die in a Mexican restaurant. So I'm pretty sure my fear of death is still gone. Death, if you'll think about it, has a bad reputation. I mean, it really does. And if you think of yourself as the body, and when I thought of myself as this body that you see, it looks like a bad deal. If I think of myself as the spirit currently inhabiting the body, it changes everything. Also, I help me to see you as the spirit inhabiting that body. And you're trapped in there, like I'm trapped in here. And you may not like it in there. You may not like the size. You may not like how some of the pieces are put together. There are all kinds of things you may not like about it. I became very comfortable with mine when it occurred to me that this loving, laughing God was not having a bad day when he created me. He doesn't have bad days. And we're all right where we're supposed to be. We just don't know it. And so I'm thinking about it, and I thought, if I'm the spirit, then what's going to happen when I, quote, die, is my spirit's going to move out of this little efficiency apartment into a vast universe and more and more. There's a storm on Jupiter twice the size of planet Earth. I want to see it up close, and I want to know why it's there. I was an Air Force pilot for 5 years. I've got 2,500 hours of flying time. Forgive me, I know too many people have seen them. I want to visit some of the other civilizations. I'm convinced there's certain among the stars. I want to walk through the pearly gates and hug my mother again and tell her what a great mom she was and thank her one more time. Death was invented by the same God who invented smallmouth bass, vanilla ice cream, and sex. Good job. Same guy. I've seen his work. He does great work. Maybe he was just warming up on those, and death is the great adventure, and I think it is. And I'm not eager to die. I told one of the guys I sponsored today, I'm not driving recklessly trying to get out of here, but I'm not afraid of it either. I'm excited about it. It was invented by the God of love, and it is therefore good. What a phenomenal change that's been in me. What a phenomenal change. And it's freed me. The freedom to make mistakes. It's my assignment. Yeah, I got here terrified of God's will. Let me give it to you another way. God's will. And if you're thinking it, I can't do steps 2 and 3 with that. That can't happen. So I'd take the term God's will and break it into 2 pieces. Piece number 1. What am I going to be when I grow up? Where am I going to live? How much money am I going to make? What's happened to my children? Do the communists eventually take over the world? Pig beasts in Africa never heard of Jesus. Can they go to heaven? And so on. All of that violates one day at a time. I now consider the entire category to be God's plan. First step says I'm not in management, don't need to know what the plan is, leaves me with God's will. Which is very simply, what would he have me do when? Today. Start my day with prayer and meditation. Let you in traffic. Say please and thank you. Treat you guys like brothers and sisters. Try to spread love and joy. Close my day with the prayer and meditation. I know what God's will is for me. Is to walk humbly in his presence today. Treating you guys like brothers and sisters and trying to spread love and joy. And toward that, I carry, and I didn't just put this in for this talk, I carry clown noses with me all the time. And when Interstate 40 comes to a stop in downtown Nashville, and it does, I put on a clown nose and drop my window, and I start blowing bubbles out the window to get the other driver's attention. And they see the clown nose and start laughing, and laughter is contagious. I start laughing. We're still stuck in traffic. I've turned it into a party. If we stay stopped, I put it in park and start passing them out. I got these in the car. I got over 100 bubbles in the car. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'll tell you what else they're good for, too. I'm walking to the grocery store, and there's a lady in there with 2 kids, and those are good kids. They're really good kids. They're just having a hard day. And I get, I don't know, 5 or 10 feet away from them, and I put on a clown nose, and I get my bubbles out, and I give them one of those. And kids will lock onto bubbles like a good bird dog will come on point. They will lock onto the bubbles. You'll be surprised how small a kid will say bubbles. It's one of their first 100 words. I swear it is. And I go up to the mom because I'm a stranger. I don't give the kids anything. I say, Mom, can the kids have clown noses and bubbles? And I've got 3 of each with me all the time. What I've discovered is that if I'm sloshing love and joy all over you, it splatters onto me every time. Every time. What happened in that grocery store? It changed those kids' day. Who else? Mom changed her day. Who else? Me. Who else? Everyone that saw it. Everyone that saw it. Serving the God of love is not a part-time job. And sloshing love and joy all over everybody is one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. What a phenomenal, phenomenal thing it is to take that for a focus. How can I best serve you today? Whose feet can I wash in your name? The incoming tide lifts all boats. I want that tide to be filled with love and joy. For that, I am responsible. I am responsible for that. And when I take that on and carry that into my day, it changes everything. It changes absolutely everything. Back to the today thing, I've been kind of scattered here. I've done this myself. I have given this as an assignment, I think, to all the men I sponsor at least once. This one day at a time, I said, it's a heartless assignment. Take some 3x5 or bigger cards and write the word today big with a Sharpie. One goes on the top of the socks in the sock drawer, one on top of the underwear, one on the mirror, one on the bedroom door, one on the dashboard of the car. The screensaver says the word today. Say it out loud every time you see it. And tell your friends that you're the closest to that you're working really hard on staying in today. And if they hear you talking and don't hear the word today, to please remind you. And put a focus on the word today and see what happens. It changes everything. If I can reach far enough into the past or far enough into the future and find enough hell and damnation and oh my God and what all of it, bring it into today, I can make today so bad I can't stand it. And if I do that, I will either drink alcohol, take drugs, or take my own life. Those are not good options. So I need to be right here, right now. There's one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Page 4, 5, 6. I talked earlier about how the steps disconnect me emotionally from all the mistakes in the past, mine and yours. I did a page 112 meeting. If you're not familiar with it, the first 3 words on page 112 are read this book. I chaired my home group this morning. That was the topic. Give us a page number first. Read a paragraph or less from that page and tell us why you read it. You got 3 minutes. And I open all my men's retreats for this. But I was in one of the gated communities. Sometimes that's a state prison for those who don't recognize the term. And those guys had big books with stories. Let me tell you something. You want to hear a page 112 meeting? Go do one of those in the state prison where those guys have got books. They will dig some pearls out of those stories for you. Page 456, 5 lines from the bottom. AA has accomplished so many things in my life today. Give me my sanity and all-around sense of balance. Now willing to listen and take suggestions. I found the process of discovering who I really am begins with knowing who I really don't want to be. It's what the first 5 steps are about. Bring to mind the 2 worst things you ever did. You're ashamed of that, right? That clearly indicates that's not who you are. That's who you're not. Because if that's who you are, you wouldn't be ashamed of it. We will teach you here, if you will let us, how to quit doing who you're not, how to repair the damage from having done who you're not, and who you really are will emerge from the ashes like the phoenix, and that ain't poetry. That's what we do here. This is about helping you evolve into who you've always really been. We're not here to change you into anything you've already everything you've ever needed to be. You just didn't know it. Don Pritz, one of my great teachers, said the alcoholic addict is like an electromagnet that's been dragged through the junkyard of life. Got all this rusty, jagged, nasty, sharp stuff stuck all over us. Through the process of the 12 steps, we get a hold of that power control and turn that power down. That stuff falls away, and this beautiful person you've always really been emerges. Not here to change you into anything. You're already everything you've ever needed to be. This loving, laughing God was not having a bad day when he created you or anybody else. It didn't happen that way. We're just wrong about it. I'm going to close with page 457. I got this from the same group of guys, last paragraph. From experience, I've realized I cannot go back and make a brand new start through AA. I can start from now and make a brand new end. I love you with all my heart. I thank you so much for turning me loose. Boy, I had a good time doing this. I hope you did. Love you.